Hi, and welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. You are listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on Conservative Talk Radio. And I am your host, Brian Fisher. Great to have you in the conversation program, Focal Point Network, the American Family Radio Talk Network. I've been talking over the last couple of segments about the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, there is some reason for optimism here. For the first time since we have been fighting Obamacare clear back to 2009, the Democrats are the ones that are now talking about repeal. They're talking about burning this thing to the ground and starting completely over. You got that testimony from those IT experts. There's no way you can fix this while it's running. The only way you could fix it is to take it offline. That's 4 to 6 months. Or you just build something brand new from the ground up. That's 6 months to do that. Or you try to fix it while it's running. That's 6 years. But there is no way to get a functional, secure website before the middle of 2014. It is technologically impossible, according to the best cybersecurity guys in the country. In other words, Obamacare is dead. That's what people don't realize. Obamacare is dead. You got these IT experts. I wouldn't send anybody. I would send no American to the website. Your information is not safe. Americans aren't going to go there when they hear that their information is not safe. And we saw that the payment option hasn't even been built into the thing, so people couldn't buy insurance there, even if they could. So that whole thing about 106,000 people have enrolled or signed up, I don't think, frankly, if what we're hearing is correct, there is not one single person in America, not one, who's purchased insurance through Obamacare. Now, Obama is trying to get people to go directly to the insurance carriers because they know that's the only way that it's even technologically possible to buy insurance, is to go completely around healthcare.gov, ignore the website, bypass it altogether, and deal directly with the insurance companies. But if they do that, then what do we need Obamacare for? What do we need healthcare.gov for? We've never needed it. We had health insurance companies before who were able to respond directly to inquiries from potential clients. We didn't need a $634 million boondoggle of a website to do that. So, and it's illegal. Having customers deal directly with insurance companies and get subsidies, because that's what Obama's saying. We'll make sure the subsidies go along with it. Well, that's illegal. The law does not provide for that. In fact, the law prohibits that. The only way you can qualify for a subsidy is to go through an exchange. That was the whole point of the law. So anyway, the thing is just, so Democrats, ladies and gentlemen, Democrats are saying we have got to pull this thing up by the roots and throw it on the slag heap of history. So that's the good news. There is a kind of break in the clouds, ladies and gentlemen. Could be very, very good news for freedom in America. Let's go to Bobby in Tyler, Texas. Bobby, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, a couple of things that I wanted to touch on really quick.
Yes, sir.
First of all, Martin Bashir, that whole thing. One thing that it reminded me of was when Joe Biden talked about they want to put you all back in chains.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear the same kind of argument from the left about how inappropriate that was.
Yeah, apparently they can use the slavery analogy all they want and they get a pass, but if we do, it'll land on us like a falling safe.
Okay, number two, I haven't got to listen to your show lately, so I don't know if you've been talking about it, but the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, I think that needs to be talked about. Basically using international law to trump the United States law, different things like that. I think the design basically comes from the abuse of the Commerce Clause in the Constitution to override the state's authority to regulate the things in states.
Well, and I'm not that familiar with a specific plan that you're talking about, but I do know that the Commerce Clause is abused enormously by the federal government, because if you go back and read the Federalist Papers, the only authority that was given to the federal government in the Commerce Clause was the ability to regulate import and export fees that one state charged for goods that were shipped across into and out of its state. That was it. They said, we got to make sure this is uniform. Congress has got to set those standards. So you want to ship goods through Massachusetts, for instance, Massachusetts guys would be at the border. They would charge you a fee to ship your goods across their state. And Congress said, look, this would be a recipe for competition and disaster. So we're going to reserve to ourselves the right to set those rates. Had nothing to do with actually telling people what they could produce, what they could manufacture, where they could buy it, how they could sell it, and all that kind of thing. Anyway, go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, so TPP, you're going to want to dig into that, and I'm sure that we can trust you to find all kinds of good information about that.
All right.
Third and last thing that I just want to touch on, Miles, the previous caller, I think what Miles was probably alluding to was the idea that you basically eliminate the insurance industry altogether, whereby instead of people having health insurance, I think kind of what he was talking about was a single-payer system where, you could have it set up to where, everybody just goes to the doctor, all the bills get thrown into one big account that is then
well, Bobby, the interesting thing is, and Bobby, I appreciate your call. Thank you for that. The interesting thing, this is what Medi-Share is already doing. Medi-Share, you hear the spots on our programming. We've had guests on to talk about Medi-Share. We'll have them on again. What Medi-Share is a Christian sharing health plan. It's not insurance. They don't bill it as insurance. It's not classified as insurance. But it works exactly like Miles was talking about, with the major difference, it is entirely voluntary. Nobody is coerced to participate in this thing. Nobody has money taken from them at gunpoint so it can be given to somebody else. These are Christians who share certain lifestyle commitments together, and they come together and they'll write a check every month to another family somewhere else in the United States that's dealing with a health care need. And it may be $300, $350 a month. That's about, I think, the average hit for a family. So to go back to Miles' question, that's about what this kind of health care would cost, $350 a month roughly for a family. That's the cost of health care when you're paying for it in cash. That's what you can do it for. And these people voluntarily say, look, I'm going to send $350 a month to whatever family needs it this month, with the understanding that when I have a need, and my family does, Christians around the country will be sending me that $350 a month in order to use for my health care expenses. And if you have enough people sending you $350 in a month, you can take care of virtually any health care need that you've got that comes down the road. So that's already being done. That's voluntary. That's the way it ought to be done. That's how the whole thing ought to be done. It all ought to be done like Medi-Share does it. All right, let's grab a call from Larry, Shreveport, Louisiana. Larry, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, good to hear from you. I'm glad you're on that wall for us, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, listen, if somebody in Congress or is involved in making laws and making our president stand by the law, take the congressmen and senators off of this exempt, then you would see them go after it and stop this thing. But as long as they're sitting pretty and they've got medical and all the things they need, and probably we're paying for that, well, you're not going to see a change. I mean, that change is going to have to come from the floor.
Well, see, but I'll tell you, Larry, the thing that's different here, you're right. They've got all kinds of perks. They've got a special hotline to get their own insurance. I mean, they're exempt from all of the hassles that every other American has to deal with. You're exactly right. Their ox isn't gored at all by this. Here's the difference, though, Larry. These people are facing the wrath of their voters. And that's going to matter a lot more to them than the perks that they get by being exempt from the system. Because, I was on a radio interview this morning back in my hometown of Boise, Idaho, and I said, look, I've been around politicians long enough to know one thing. Number one, the only thing that matters to them is getting elected in the first place. And then number two, once they get elected, the only thing that matters to them is getting re-elected. They love being senator this or congressman that. They love the perks. They love the salary. They love the power. They love the visibility. They love everything about it. And they will do anything it takes in order to be sent back to Washington, D.C. And right now, they're hearing from their people. I'm telling you, Larry, whether they're Democrat or Republicans, they are hearing from the American people, this thing is a disaster. Get rid of this thing. I can't afford it. I can't even buy it if I wanted to. It is a horrible, no good, very bad policy. Burn this thing to the ground. And that's the difference, I think, Larry. I think the Democrats are starting to get the message, and they, I believe, are going to be in position shortly. Marco Rubio says 8 weeks. He thinks they're going to be at the table figuring out how we can repeal this thing. All right, Larry, appreciate it. Let's go to Marie, Sheffield, Alabama. Marie, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian. First of all, thank you so much for all of your prayers before your segment. I just want you to know that blesses my heart, because really our hope is in just that prayer for America. And I just, until my prayer is that God would send a revival across this land. like the Great Awakening, and then we would see men and women and boys and girls' hearts changed, and really that's our real hope. But a couple of things. One is I still don't understand and why people don't hammer this issue. Most of the Congress is made up of attorneys. And when I wrote to my Senator Shelby and Session and asked them, how is it that a legal document was passed and never read? Would you, as a person, attorney or not, would you sign a document, a contract, without reading it? And no response to that question.
Yeah.
So I still don't understand. I think on a legal point of view, if it wasn't read, can't we, the people, say we can't have it?
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, Marie, and that's why you got to, at some point when we're electing people, we've got to make character and integrity an issue. People say that doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is their policies. Well, it absolutely does. What does the guy do? Is he been faithfully married to his wife? What kind of a father is he from what we can tell? Is he a man of his word? Was he an honest businessman? Has he been in trouble with the law? All of those things matter because they bear on issues of character. And remember, Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Anything beyond these is of evil. In other words, if a guy knows that his word cannot be trusted, then that's when he starts saying, hey, I take an oath on a stack of Bibles. I swear on my mother's grave. What's he doing? He's saying, I know you don't believe me. I know that I have not given you reason to trust me, so I've got to go through all these hoops to try to get you to believe what I am telling you. So that's why character and integrity have got to be so important, Marie, because you're exactly right. Not one of these attorneys, if it was a real estate deal and there was multiple pages of, there's no way in the world they're going to put their name on that thing where they're bearing the liability for what's in that document without having read it with a fine-tooth comb. Exactly right. All right, Marie, listen, I appreciate that. Thank you for the call very, very much. Marie's exactly right. A revival is what we need. It's what we pray for. That's why we start every day with prayer. I'm so pleased that Clarissa was touched by what we did at the beginning. That's why we do it. Now, I guarantee you, I'm going to start with the JFK stuff coming out of the break. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get to it. I'm not going to do anything. Nothing will deter me from my point around. We're going to talk JFK and the assassination right after the break. Focal Point AFR Talk. Stay with us. We'll be right back.